Hello again. Had a bit of fun with this card yesterday. Those of you who saw the video will probably realise that I was merrily going on my way and I stuck this little chap onto the back of the card instead of the front, and I had to cut a panel and put it onto a new card base. Oh dear, the things we do. Anyway, one of the people who had looked at that video and commented, someone called Chris. Now, I don't know if Chris is a he Chris or a she Chris, but this Chris appealed to me, another Chris. And the message was that when they made a gnome card, they put Noel on, as I did with this one, but they put a G in front of it, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. The G of the gnome, the G of Noel, I thought was fabulous. So I thought, I'm going to have to make a card with a gnome and put the letter G on the front. Anyway, I looked through my drawer and I was thinking I'd get some red card or something. Anyway, I came across this little scrap, which is a piece of just plain red card that I had stamped and embossed in gold on, just to make a kind of pattern. And the card I made with my gnome with a G is this one. This little chap is a Simon Says stamp die. I think he's cute. I've got another one who is a bit bigger, and he's got a sort of a curly end on his hat. But I like this, the smaller one of the two. And I've got a word. This is a Sizzix die for Noel. And I just went through my alphabets and I found a G. So I thought I would make a point of having this G at the front of Noel. I keep laughing and thinking about it. It's crazy. So what I thought I would do is I would cut the G out of the patterned paper and the Noel from white, which I did. Didn't like the look of that. I thought perhaps I'll do it in the plain red. Couldn't find any more of this exact red. I've got loads of sheets of red card. I couldn't find the exact same one. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I will heat emboss it in gold. So there we go. That's what I decided to do. So I've got a few twiddly bits that I did that I decided upon along the way. Why I decided to emboss it in gold rather than just cut it from gold was because I've got embossing here and I wanted the gold to be the same. I didn't want to have, this glaring Noel out of gold mirror card or whatever. So that's why I decided to emboss it. So I'll show you what I did. First of all, I'm going to start by cutting a panel this time. And the reason being, I've got a little bit of music embossing. I always think of the first Noel when I hear Noel, the word Noel. So I thought I'd have a little bit of music on, and that can be the base for the rest of the card. So I needed to cut a panel so that I could emboss that bit. So here I've got a piece of card I've cut down. The reason I've cut it down to just slightly larger than the die is so that I can put the die in the machine slightly on an angle so I don't get that awful cracking sound when, I don't think it does the machine any good actually, when it hits the rollers, when a straight piece of metal meets the roller parallel, it doesn't really like it very much. So if I can tilt it slightly on one side rather than being like this, just tilt it slightly on one side, it normally helps. So there is my front panel. This card is a 5x7. It's the biggest rectangular card that I can make from a sheet of British A4. So I'll put my die away. There's my front panel. Now, in order to do this embossing here. This is it's a Sizzix embossing folder, and I've just got kind of the bottom little bit, and I looked through to see how much was embossing, and I think it was about yay much, I think. Something like that. Now, in the ordinary way, if I didn't want the edge of the folder to make a line when it was going through the machine, I would do it with some rubber mat instead of some of the sandwich, but I haven't kind of worked it out on my platinum, so I'm just going to do what the manufacturer says and use the base plate, the embossing folder and the card, and the blue embossing plate. Just make sure it's absolutely square, and I'm going to take this through. It's quite tough, but it does go. There we go. So now I have my bit of music along the bottom of my folder, and I've got a bit of a ding there where I can rub that out with I have got somewhere, let's just try this one. That's better. Okay. There we go. Now, to do the G and the man himself, I'm going to cut a base, which is this one, from white card. I just use my scraps for that. And I'm going to use this little tiny bit for the gnome himself. I'll use him that way up, I think. And the letter G. I want to make sure it's got some nice pattern. I think that was quite nice there. Okay, into the die cutting machine that goes. Yeah, that's okay. There we are. Yeah, still okay. Right. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but this little chap's bottom part here has got bits that look a bit like the seeds on a strawberry. And of course, when you cut him out, they're likely to fall out. And I want to actually keep them in. I don't want to have any difference there. So what I'm going to do is to use a little bit of double-sided tape just to keep those all together. People, when I've done this before, said, oh, if you put the double-sided tape on first, you don't have to bother. I want this afterwards to keep them together. If I put it on first, each one of those would still be cut out, and I want to keep them together. So that's the purpose of this. I'm just going to put that across the back before I try and get it out. There we go. Now I can cut round the edge. And all my little pieces are intact, still in the die cut. There we go. So there's the bottom bit. Nothing lost. Perfect, says she. Right, I don't actually need the beard in this because I don't want him to have a red beard. I may use that nose. What I did before for this nose was I used a tiny bit of this and put it over there and cut it out so that I would have a plain nose, not a gold embossed nose. All right, we're getting there. So I need a bit of scrap now for him again, for his beard in the white, and I need the back plate or whatever you call it in the white as well. So I can cut both of those out from this piece of scrap. This is part of the card that was left over when I cut the base from my piece of A4. So there's is that. There's that. There's that. Now, the beard, I decided would look probably a little bit better if it looked a bit more bushy. I don't know if you can see this. See that there? So what I did, I had a rummage through my embossing folders to see if I could find something that would leave a nice bit of texture. And I came across this one. Now there's heaps like this, but it's kind of a damask kind of pattern. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see that? And I thought if I was to use this beard and pop it into the folder this way up, just there, can you see? I looked all around to see what I could find, and this, to me, it looks like it's, you know, the hairs of his beard. So what I'm going to do is just grab a bit of low tack tape, if I can find it. There it is. A little bit of low tack tape, just to keep it where I want it. That bit's not very good. Right, there we go. A little bit of low tack tape. Let's just have a look. I think that looks all right. I don't mind repeating this card because I think, you know, it's going to be fun to send this Christmas. Right, into my folder, into my machine, and emboss. There we go. It's quite tough in this machine to do embossing. It's a kind of a bit of a different principle from some of my other ones, but here we go. Now all I have to do is to take off this bit of low tack tape. There we go. So now he's got a hairy beard. It's cute, isn't he? Cute. All right, we're getting there. Next thing. What I did for this one is I stacked it. I don't think I need to go through all the details with you. I'll do a little bit. And then I need to cut out my Noel and clear emboss it. Not clear emboss it in gold. There we are. When I look back and listen to some of these videos that I've done, I say all sorts of things. I said, when I was doing this one, I looked at it and I said, shade on the right-hand side, and proceeded to shade on the left. I don't know. It's old age, I think. That's the trouble. Anyway, here we go. Here we go. Where's the right side? There's the right. Not that it matters because I'm going to emboss this. So there we are. Right. Cut out my Noel. Actually, I embossed that 3 times. I didn't like the finish on the first layer. I wasn't too thrilled on the finish on the second layer. But by the time I got to the 3rd layer, it was more acceptable. So, you know, it's, again, I thought I was only going to do it once, but it didn't look good enough to me, so I carried on. Right, this is what I did for this. And I've also tried using a brayer to add ink to things like this that I'm going to heat emboss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't always. So I often just press it like this into the ink pad. The only problem with this is you often get a bit of ink on the back, but it's neither here nor there. Okay, I'm now going to put this onto a piece of scrap so that I can put my embossing pad right, and all the pieces are stuck together. Here it is. There's my word. Here is my embossing powder. I'm going to put it on. Now, when you want a fair amount of embossing powder onto a surface like this, you don't just put it on and shake it off straight away, because when you put it on and then just tip it off, there are lots of places where the powder hasn't got to. So if you can give it a bit of a jiggle, it often helps to make sure that all the area is covered. It gives it a chance to wriggle into the little crevices. Okay. Right, now to heat this, I'm just going to put my tweezers either side of one of the openings just to hold it still. So here we go. Now I'll just hold this against the other one so you can see the difference from a 1-time embossing to a 3 times embossing. Can you see? Can you see the difference there? By adding an extra couple of layers, it makes it smoother, makes the edges more rounded, and I just kind of like the idea of it. So that's what I did there. What I did for the bottom layers of the letter G was, let me just put the lid on this before I knock it all over the place. So where's my G? Here it is. Get rid of that little bit from the centre. I'm going to put a bit of double-sided tape on the back of this piece of card. And I'm going to cut out 2 of these. One from the bit with the double-sided tape on. Which is going to be the bottom layer. I don't know what this die is. I've got no idea. I've had it for a long time. Don't often use these. I've got all sorts of I've got a whole box full of alphabet dies, and I suppose it's a bit like when I want to use a computer sentiment. I spend ages messing around looking to see if the line, if the weight of the sentiment, if the pattern of the sentiment matches the image. I mess around for ages. I think you see me do it more often than not. Now I've noticed there's a tiny bit of double-sided on this bit, which I'm going to pull off before I stick it down to this next one. I like to do the zig pen because I can maneuver it to get it absolutely aligned. Okay, now we'll put this one on. It's not quite aligned. We'll just move that. That's better. That's better. Right, the top layer is here. There we are. So that goes on there. When I've done 2 more layers of this, that will go on there. This little chap I'm going to have to assemble, so we can glue the bits that are not covered by that double-sided tape. There. I can take off the backing. Make sure it's stuck down. There we are. And then I can pop this onto the base sheet. Oh, I've lost one. Woohoo! Doing that. I lost one of the little bits. I'll find it in a minute. Oh, it's there on my hand. They're so tiny. There it is. Oh, yeah. There. Oops. Get out. This is the bit that was... I was being lazy. I didn't want to have to cut out all of that again. Oh, and another one's just come out. Oh, good grief. There it is. Right. Oh, my Lord. I suppose everybody does this kind of thing, really. There we are. Oh, what a palaver. What a palaver. Right, now we can put his hat, because I've got one more little secret that I did with his beard when sticking it down. So put this here, make it absolutely in the right place. There we are. And his nose, I'm just going to use this one for now. I could have, as I said, done a, there we are. Does it look better that way? Or that way? We'll have it this way. There's his nose. Now, his beard here is just sticking up a little bit. So what I did to make that happen was put a tiny bit of foam tape just at the bottom, about there. So we'll take that off, the backing. There we are. And I'm going to glue the rest of this. Just make sure I've got the right way around. I think it's that way. Which way around is it? It's that way. Okay. Couldn't remember which side I'd done it. Just gluing this at the top, and the bottom part will be taken care of with that piece of, there we are. There, and he's ready. So he can go on there. All I have to do then is peel off the back of this. I will cut another Noel with double-sided tape on the back, stick it to the back of this. Once I've done my embossing, put that on there, and we are in business. This would then go on to another card base, which I've cut here. And there we have another Noel. It's such fun. I spend hours up here enjoying myself all on my own, but I enjoy it more when I can share it with you. So thank you very much. One thing would be lovely, I think, when you comment, and I'm so grateful for the people who comment. I love to read them. If you could say where you're from, where you live, that would be really interesting for me. And I think, you know, people's methods and things differ all over the world, but we've got all of this in common, so it would be really nice to know. So, as ever, thank you so much for watching.